Right then guys, how's it going and welcome back to Fantasy Football Game Week 4. Game Week 3, not my greatest week. I don't think it was the greatest week for anyone. The average points was just 44, which I did do slightly better than, but it still wasn't enough for a green arrow. A red arrow, I have moved down in the league, and I will be eating some humble pie later in the video, so get ready for that. But as always, we will start off with my league to see how you guys are doing. In first place, still in first place from last week, we have Pookie Blinders. I said I was a fan of that name last time. I'm still a fan of it now. Well done to you, mate. Very early in the season and still number 1 2 weeks in a row is very good. Second place, we have Emilian. Third place, we have Philip. Fourth place, we have Bruno and Alan. Basically, if your name is on there, well done, because you are doing much better than I am. But let's take a look at Pookie Blinders' team. 60 points, and he actually did play his wild card in game week 3. I was going to say, I am personally not playing my wild card in game week 4. We'll talk about it in a minute, but I honestly think a lot of people will. The players who we now are realising we need to have in our team are starting to come out, and people can't necessarily fit them all in without a wild card. But in terms of his defence, wow. Soyuncu? I have not seen that name before, and I don't know how to pronounce it, but 5 points for him. There was very, very few clean sheets at the weekend, which is pretty much why there was such a low scoring average, because no one got many defensive points. Across the midfield, I mean, you had the people that you wanted in your team. You had Sterling, Salah. He made the same mistake that I did, which is having Sterling and Salah the wrong way around for captain and vice-captain. But 5 for De Bruyne, Mount got 8, Martial got 5, both of them potentially injured for the upcoming weekend. Firmino with 2. Where is Pookie gone, mate? I swear you had Pookie in there last time. You took him out with the wild card and he got a goal. So you could have actually had a few more points there. But who am I to judge? You're top of my league. I am much further down from yourself. But yeah, as I say, big up. Taking a quick look at the league, as I said, as always, if you have made it onto the front page, you are having a cracking start to the FPL season. And if I keep making my way down and down, there's me, 408th. I believe I was 370th last game week, so I have moved down 51 points. What am I about 50 points off the top spot, I think. 50? Yeah, 50 points off the top spot. We'll have a look at my team, but before we do that, again, new entries. Thank you, Mikel, for getting involved with the league. I know at this point you are 3 weeks behind, but as you can see here, Mikel's not bothered. He's getting involved with the league, so if you haven't joined yet, then make sure you do. Again, the code will be on screen. I think I've put it here. That's where I normally put it now. So yeah, jump in. But as I said, let's take a look at my team. I'll let you know what I'm doing. Points-wise, as I said, 51 points. The average was 44, so technically I did better than average, but in reality, I've still got a red arrow, moved down. Defence, it was going to be a tough one because there was very few clean sheets. Foster and Net from Watford, I mean, they haven't got a clean sheet yet. They're the only team on 0 points, so I've made a poor move there, but anyway. Robertson, Zinchenko, nothing from them, and Lundstram, the 14-pointer, £4 million defender from last week, unfortunately couldn't do it again this week. Across the midfield, Salah and Sterling pretty much saved my week. Other than them two, there's really nothing on the board there. If only I'd given Salah the captaincy instead of Sterling, it could have been worth more. Lucas Moura. Now, he didn't get any points. He didn't score against Newcastle. Obviously, I was happy about that. But at the same time, the amount of sitters he missed in that game, I know some people are starting to move him out now. I think I'm going to give him just a little bit more time. And depending on what I do with my wild card, I may still be tempted to leave him in because he has a lot of chances. He just can't seem to find the back of the net. Hayden came in because my man Origi didn't play, and I put in Douglas Luiz last week in order to afford Rashford. Yeah, that was it. How have I not even mentioned this yet? So I mentioned at the start of the video, I was going to have to eat some humble pie. I said in last week's video that you had two options, Pukki and Rashford. And again, because I knew I should have had Pukki in 3 weeks ago before he got his hat-trick, and I didn't do it. I wanted to prove myself right this week that Rashford can be just as good as Pukki. And Rashford missed a pen, and Pukki got a goal and an assist. Honestly, if I'd done it the other way around, Rashford would have scored and Pukki would have missed a pen. You know, it's just... I just can't win. But as I've said, we'll take a look at the changes that I'm making this week. I have already made my changes. I did a quick transfer at the start of the week to make sure I got it done and dusted before the price went up. You can probably guess what I've done. I've put in Pukki. Alright, I give up. I tried to go it without him. I made the mistake of not putting him in before he scored a hat-trick against Newcastle. I tried to fight the wave and leave it last week and put Rashford in instead. And he proved me wrong again. So look, I've put him in. I hope everyone's happy. I'm not, because I've paid an extra 0.4 million for him than I could have done if I'd just put him in at the start. But as I've said, and I said this in my first video for fantasy football, you need to follow the trends. You need to follow the players who are doing well. Don't just hope that the players that you've got will start to do well. You need to follow the trend. And I went against my own advice. I tried not to do that, to just prove a point to myself after not putting him in the first place. And I've had to just go for it now. So Pukki is in there, Rashford is in there, and Aubameyang is in there. If you're wondering how I've managed to afford that front three, I took Robertson out for Matip as well. And to be honest, I wouldn't say Robertson's had the greatest of starts of him and Alexander-Arnold. Alexander-Arnold has actually looked a lot better, but Alexander-Arnold's too expensive, which is why I've gone for Matip, and this is why my team's just becoming a bit of a mishmash of whatever. I would generally say that I'm happy-ish with my first 11, but then again, Rico from Bournemouth hasn't actually played in the last 2 games. Kelly at home for Crystal Palace, he's only 4 million and I'm relatively happy with that. Zinchenko, Matip, I'm relatively happy with that. My midfield, I'm happy with, except for maybe Lucas Moura, and then my front three I am happy with. So it's a bit of a funny one on the bench. Douglas Luiz for Aston Villa. I think he got a 3-pointer, a 9-pointer before that. He is only 4.5 million, so I think that's a good shout. Overall, I'm not overly concerned with my team, but it could definitely be better. And the reason I call it a mishmash is because I think with a wild card, I could actually get in all the players that I want. At the minute, I'm just trying to force players in into positions. Like, as I said, I kind of had to get rid of Robertson to get Matip in just so that I could afford Pukki. Whereas if I just used the wild card, I could have put a lot more time into it. But as I've said, that's what I've gone for. I made the early changes, and depending on what happens this week, if I have a good week, I'll follow it through to the next week. If I have another average week, I think it's going to be wild card time. And as I've said, if you're watching other fantasy football videos on YouTube, I do think a lot of people, if they're not using the wild card this week, they'll be using it next week. And as I've said, again, using an early wild card is not a bad thing. It allows you to get your team where you'd want it to be for the players, as I've mentioned, who are doing well. If you don't have Pukki right now, you're struggling to afford him. You could easily say, yes, he's playing for Norwich. In a game or two's time, he might stop scoring. But if you do what I did and don't put him in at all, like I did for the last 2 weeks, you've missed out on so many points. and that is why you need to follow the trend. Yes, he might dry up and you put someone else in, but it's better to try and jump on the bandwagon than just not bother at all. But yeah, it's a slightly shorter video this week, I think, compared to normal. Let me know down below what you have done with your team for this week. Do you have any hidden gems that you think might be working out? Normally I ask you guys for your opinion on my team before the weekend, but as I've said, I went for it early. I had a feeling Pookie's value would go up, which it did by I think 0.1 million after I made the change, so I knew I had to do it quickly. Fingers crossed Matip scores himself a goal this weekend like he did last weekend. But yeah, let me know how you're doing in my league as well. No doubt you're probably doing better than I am, but it's always interesting to see how you guys are doing. Okay? Drop a like if you're enjoying fantasy football, subscribe if you are new, be sure to join the league if you haven't already, and I'll catch you later.